do, do, do. Hey, welcome to Talk About Paint Club. I'm your host, Rick Strohmeyer, and I'm running slightly behind, but we're here. Thanks for joining us. Why is that? My camera's acting goofy. So sorry. All right, so let's see. We got to do Paint Club. No, got to let the Facebook group know, and it's cool. All right. Welcome to that part of the show. And we'll pin it and do that. Been featured. I'll do this. Glue Mandan. We're back. All right. Okay. So long story short. All right. So welcome to Talk About Paint Club. I'm your host, Rick Strohmeyer, and I'm ready to talk. Let's see. It's been a hot minute since we've been here. Hot minute. It's been a while since we've been here. Normally, we take our break after the third week of or after the third week of each month, and so we had a double dead week in March, which meant like we ended on the 16th. And then I could not compete against this weekend for anything to not get people here, but to be able to do this. Like I can't compete against WrestleMania. And also, so on this weekend, we also did, my wife and we do a yearly Lord of the Rings movie marathon in which we watch all the movies, not the shows. We watch all the movies, and we plan the meals around things that might have existed in Middle Earth. There's it's all speculation, right? No, so like sometimes it's glorified stoner food. It's fine. So like, let's see. I'm not trying to be coy. I'm just like, well, how do I preposition this? Because I did not actually plan on talking about this, but it's like it's big enough event in our lives where I'm going to share. So let's see. So first off, root beer. It's a holdover from this weekend. So let's see. How do we begin? So I go with the. We've always planned the food to be mostly European, because like spicy things, I don't imagine they exist in Middle Earth. So I mean, Tolkien wrote a lot about. I mean, he had parallels with a lot of European cultures in Lord of the Rings, and we base it loosely off of that. So, like, if I go looking for a recipe, it's I pretty much look for an English or a German or European version of things, without a lot of peppers in it, just because. So, to this year. And of course, there's new world things in our menu planning sometimes. So it's not just like if it wasn't in the old world with shit. It's not Scottish, it's crap. But yeah, so the guideline. Like there's one time I did something with peppers in it, and I was like, Gandalf got it off the boat when he was given the Ring of Fire. We'll see. So like this year, we have our staples that we like to do. There's plenty of Lord of the Rings or Tolkien-esque recipes out there, and that's very much how we started doing this a few years ago, 13 years ago. And like one of the staples is a recipe for Bjorn's honey cakes. I hope I'm saying that right, but Beor and Bjorn's Honey Cakes. He was the bear in the second Hobbit movie, or the skin changer in the second Hobbit movie. We make a honey cake that's pretty dense. It's about as dense as a good cornbread, but it's moist and delicious. Um, Most years we just use honey as the sweetener. A couple years we have used maple syrup along with the honey, and we did that one year because, well, we just got a batch of brand of homemade syrup from Alicia's folks, so we were like, well, let's throw that in there and see how it works. And amazing. So like even with our modifications, that one particular thing comes out really well, and we've always been pleased with it. This year Alicia made a honey butter to go with it. I don't butter my bread normally, so everybody else enjoyed it. This is the second year we had guests over, so the first 11 years we did it pretty much just as ourselves, living as hobbits in our hole. And last year we opened the doors up to one of my buddies, and he came and enjoyed the whole weekend. And Alicia opened it up to two more people this weekend, so we had four people. And still, I didn't modify any of the recipes at all in terms of quantity, because we always make too much food. And like if we had 6 or 7 people, we probably would have not had any leftovers, but everybody still would have been fed well. Okay, so let's see. We do Bjorn's. So like we start when we first started doing this, there was only the 3 extended Fellowship of the Rings that we would watch. But when we first did this, we would pause the movie every time we got up so we could go get something or make something, prepare something. And after the second or third year of doing that, we decided we weren't going to pause it, because yes, it did take a long time. It made the whole experience longer, but it's like, we know these movies. We have been loving these movies since for 20 plus years. So it's okay if we don't pause it. But the first year we did this, oh my gosh, we had we made something for every Hobbit meal imaginable, and it was way too much food. Boy, did we eat well. But it was like, okay, I mean, like, oh, this is dating Alicia my first year, and we pulled out every stop. And I think at that time we had only been dating for like 3 months, maybe, or 2. And that was the time when I had a dog named Smog, so very convenient. And let's see, so it's progressed. So our menu this year was a little, it was good. So let's see, so because of the addition of 3 more movies with The Hobbit, we have to, I don't remember when we started the first year, but we have to start on Friday. And we watch a movie, at least one movie on Friday. Oh, and they're all extended versions. To make a long story longer, they're all extended versions, which is cool. So yeah, we have to start on Friday. And sometimes we only get 1 movie. Sometimes we get 2. And then on Saturday, we watched 2 or 3 movies, and then Sunday was the remainder. So this year it was 1, 2, or 1, 3, and 2. So yeah, we got to the actual like Fellowship of the Rings by Saturday. And that was fine. And of course, we ended by like 6:37. No, we ended by like 7 o'clock, which I was thinking, oh, we had enough time. I could have squeezed Paint Club in. And then when I realized that I have some of my friends were posting WrestleMania stuff online, I was like, there's no way I'm competing against WrestleMania with some people who will watch this live, or later on, if they wanted to watch it live, they were probably watching WrestleMania instead. Um, so yeah, so 3 movies. Then yesterday we hammered out Two Towers and uh, Return of the King. And let's see. So Friday we'd had a chicken and stuffing baked out of a crock pot, and it was super yummy. Um, Started at 2. It was ready to be eaten at 6. Our guests brought a blueberry bread over. It was really yummy, blueberry bread. And so our dessert that we were planning for Friday ended up just getting bumped till to Saturday, which made things ultimately it made things a little easier. 'Cause Saturday's meal was huge, and it was a lot of work, and having to make the dessert that I had planned for on Saturday along with it. In retrospect, whew, I'm so glad that was one of my big tasks for Sunday. So for later. Um, so chicken and stuffing with that blueberry bread for it's like a blueberry cake for dessert. And let's see, Friday, Alicia and I had split a Magnum of the cider that one of my buddies gave us when we got married, and yeah, that was like, it sounds kind of plain Jane, but it worked out really well. It was amazing. And then Saturday, we hit the ground running. I was up by 7 o'clock because I had to do a couple quick errands before we got started. I made Alicia. I'm making Alicia a yarn swept, and I'm prototyping it because the material I have for the final version, I only have enough for one. So any time I have to change a part on it or think I'm adjusting for a hole or something, I'm recutting it out of MDF to just make sure to see if that's my semi comp before I go into final composition. And she wanted to have a Yarn Swift operational for while we were doing this, because not only do we watch the movies, we eat, and we do work on projects. There's nothing. Yeah, we do. And like I was painting. Imagine that. Up until the drinking started, like Friday and Saturday, as soon as I started drinking, I was like, paintbrush goes down, the pencil gets picked up. No big deal. But yeah, so Alicia wanted to have so Alicia was like, oh, I'd like to have my Yarn Swift done. And I kept trying to get it done for this past week. And just every hurdle that I could get, I hit. But by the time Saturday rolled around, or Friday was rolling around, I felt really bad about it. So I ended up like planning my sleep schedule around to be able to get up by 7 o'clock so I could hit one, if not two, hardware stores to pick up the final things to actually get her thing up and running, and to go to Target to get some cheese that I almost always eat for this event. And by the time her guests came by, like her Yarn Swift was up and running. Breakfast was made or good to go. And yeah, we were just like hit the ground running really fast on Saturday, and it showed. So for breakfast on Saturday, she made this oatmeal bake that was like, I don't know, like tasted good with whipped cream on top of it. It was pretty dense, very filling, and it lasted us in it was like a limbus. No, so it worked out really well. And that day throughout the day we had we had cheese plate, or a variety of cheeses and breads and crackers and stuff that we could snack on throughout. We had the crock pot filled up with apple cider in the living room so that you could have hot apple cider. There was booze off to the side that if anybody wanted to be able to doctor up their cider, they could. There was lots of yummy flavors out there to do. We had maple flavored booze, regular booze, maple flavored booze, apple flavored booze to put in your apple cider. And that sounds weird to put apple in your apple, but it works. Like if you're a root beer drinking person, like I put root beer schnapps in my root beer, and it just makes it more like candy, and it's amazing. So that was the big thing there, which was like the oatmeal bake, and then like the big cheese and bread spread with that. Oh, and then dinner, of course. So for dinner we had a pulled pork that I made in the crock pot that was made with a German recipe. I don't think I nailed it, but everybody liked it, so I'm my own worst critic. We had talked about we planned this menu well in advance, and there was debate on whether or not I wanted to make a big roast of something, beef, pork, or chicken, or if I wanted to like do schnitzel, pan fry schnitzel. And like 3 days before we went shopping, I was like, let's just do the roast. It'll be easy. It's easier for me. And yada, yada, yada. The big thing was it was going to be less mess, less stuff I had to clean up, because very much on this event, I've learned like 4 or 5 years ago that it was like clean as you go, and it's no matter what you make, you're not going to have to go look at this massive mountain of stuff that you have to clean up. It's like there's always like 5 or 10 minutes in between steps that you're doing while you're cooking, that it's okay. You could clean up a pot, a pan, or this, that, and the other, and you could have it good to go. Like, and everything's got sauces and it would not do well in doing, and even the dishes, because like it would not do well to do like paper plates and stuff, even the high end stuff. It's just like this stuff won't work there. Because if you get the styrofoam shit, it would be okay. But like I can foresee many of people taking their freaking thing and cutting into it and then breaking their plate and having a mess. So it's just like all dishes all the time. And if we were camping and doing something like this, we do plastic cutlery, no problem. But we're at home, we're going to just run the dishwasher a couple times, and that seemed to work out super. I'm still tired from the event, if you can't tell. So we did this pork roast in the crock pot, because I love my crock pot. But on the stove, I made potatoes fondant, which I don't know how to describe it, but I'm going to tell you what I did, and we'll use my little SoFlat bottle as an example. So imagine this. It should be a little smaller though, but I cut potatoes into cylinders, and then you pan fry it on one side. You pan fry it so it gets a nice dark gold color. Then you flip them over. You add I use bacon grease for the first sear. Then I use butter on the second sear. And then while it's searing, after some butter, I add in half a stick, and I let it bubble until it turns golden, and then that gets removed from the. Had a brain fart. I did this all I did this in not on a pan this time, but I did it in a Dutch oven, so that when I was done frying it, pour some stock in. So all those points: pan fry, butter, gets golden. Then we pour chicken stock in, put the lid on, put it in the oven, bake it for 400 degrees for half an hour. They come out, they look like scallops, how they're beautifully seared on both sides, and they have absorbed all that moisture, and they're fluffy. They have that little bit of texture on the top and bottom. They're fluffy. They taste amazing. And you can do the same thing with sweet potatoes too. They just Sweet potatoes just don't need as much time in the oven, probably like 5-10 minutes less. But I let them go. I cook them just as long. They're always a little overdone. They're always, and it just happens to be the way I like it. But yeah, like I do it the same. I do it the same way, same cook times. But if I cook the sweet potatoes in the same vessel with the regular potatoes, the russets, you could tell that one's overcooked and one's undercooked. But if you do it separate, they all turn out beautiful. And yeah, so it's a great way to dress up a potato and use your fancy herbs and spices. They're seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic, and some thyme, and it works out really well. So you got bacon and butter, greasing them up and giving them flavor. Chicken stock, adding to the flavor, and then salt, pepper, and garlic, and some thyme. Yeah, good stuff. So that night, Saturday night, would have been Sunday's dessert. And that would have meant like way more work. So Saturday's new. Because so all the desserts just got bumped down a day. And then so what was Friday's dessert became Saturday's dessert. So that dessert was cinnamon chip cookies. We got the little cinnamon morsels from Target. I ended up grabbing Alton Brown's chocolate chip cookie recipe online. Used that recipe, but used the cinnamon chips in there, and I made that on the dough on Friday and put it in the fridge for a day, and then like when it was time to bake it, we got these little I took ramekins and 5 of them for 4 people because I was going to be greedy and want to have a second one. So I baked the cookie in there so that we could put ice cream in there and basically turn it into skillet cookies. And yeah, it worked out beautiful like that. The vanilla bean ice cream with the cinnamon chip cookie on the bottom. Oh, fantastic. Like I said, stoner food, right? So then Sunday, it's 7:30 and I've been talking about Hobbit Weekend for about 20 minutes. Clearly it was a good weekend. And we've always called it Hobbit Weekend, even before the Hobbit came out. It's just like my wife and I were hobbits. It's cool. Like wars make one late for dinner. Anyway, so Sunday, again, in the middle, we had the cheese spread again, which was awesome. For the morning, what the heck did we do for the morning? We did something. Might have been the oat cake. Might have been the oatmeal thing. I think that was. We did the honey cakes the first night. We did the honey cakes on Saturday and the oat bar on Sunday. So sorry if I got things out of order. So oat thing, cheese spread, and then for dessert eventually, because like everybody's a little full. Everybody's happy to eat this, and this. We did not do a main dish on Sunday, which is fine. We did. I made donut bread pudding for Sunday, and it was a success. I don't care for bread pudding normally. Like I've had a handful of bread puddings that are like, yeah, I'll go back to that. Since I don't like cooked fruit, I definitely don't like bread pudding with raisins in it. So yeah, I never go out of my way to eat bread pudding that I don't have a hand in or know exactly what's in it because I do not like to find the surprise raisins. Surprise raisins. So yeah, so I made donut bread pudding. Normally I use glazed donuts. You can find a million recipes online on how to make it. The base is you want to use day-old donuts or stale donuts. There are times when I was still working for the school when I'd go buy the donuts a day or two in advance, but of course I'll bring in donuts for everybody and then have like, nobody touch that dozen, that is mine. That is ours for the weekend. And I'll leave that shit in the truck. But anyway, so day-old donuts, and we got them from we got our donuts this time. Normally I just do like Dunkin' Donuts. Um, I don't go out of my way for fancy donuts because everybody's very proud of their donut. But this year, so Dunkin' Donuts is fine. Heck, even like I think I've used the grocery store donuts before because once they're day old and it's fine. But so we normally use glazed donut. So this year I went to the high-end grocery store that sometimes we go to, and they have retooled their donut section. And their donuts are this big. They're stupid big. And they're rectangle. They're rectangular. Um, and they had a deal on them this weekend. And so 50% off donuts. Four per day. Or yeah, it said 4 per day. So I got 8 and only needed 6. 6 or 7. So I ended up with a donut left over, which is great, but normally I use a dozen. So it just kind of goes to show how dense and how much bigger these people make them, and they don't cut their corners. Uh, so super nice. But they don't make glazed donuts. So like the closest they do is they have a glazed donut and they have a zigzag of chocolate on it. And I don't like chocolate on my donuts. But they've recently started doing a cinnamon and sugar donut that I do like. And it pairs up nicely if you want like a little churro for something like. And there have been a couple times when we've planned like a Mexican meal night while we're at the grocery store, and I'm like, I'm gonna get me one of those cinnamon sugar donuts and have a churro fix. It's close enough. The fried outer edge of the donut is not as good as a churro, but all the other flavors are there, so it works. So that was the big risk this time, is we're going to use a donut that doesn't have glaze on it, that has cinnamon and sugar, and we're going to see how it works. And so you chop it all up, you put it in your pan, and then you put like this egg substance in with it. That sounds so gross. A custard. Put a custard in there, let it soak for a while, then you put it in the oven. It bakes up nicely, and then Alicia made a glaze to put over top of it that was caramely. It was awesome. Everybody enjoyed it. It's super dense. One of my buddies who joined us last year couldn't make it this year, so we knew in advance he couldn't join us, and we were very much like trying to figure out some scheduling to have this during the spring, because we always do it in the spring. But Easter screwed up last weekend, etc. So there's just some timing things that we almost always have to fiddle with. So this year was one buddy couldn't make it, but I made him some plates. So like we knew in advance he couldn't do it, and he had helped me out for a certain thing, and I was like, dude, I will if you come by after your trip, I'll set you up with a plate. And I set him up with pretty much a little bit of everything that I just discussed with you all, except the oatmeal thing. Yeah, so wonderful weekend, very busy. Now I'm like, holy crap, I'm done. Just like, I'm tired. Got to sleep in today all the way to 9 o'clock, so yay for that. And yeah, so we don't have a color of the month. Okay, so Nicole, I think, oh, blah, 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 all about me, and we didn't discuss Nicole. All right, so Nicole is MIA this week. Like, she knew the time. Like, we discussed the time, and she has the link. I'm monitoring it over here. I don't know where she is. I'm hoping that she didn't say like, "Oh, I thought you meant 7 o'clock my time," which would be awful because that would have meant she missed it an hour ago or 2 hours ago. But we're going to just we're soldiering on, and that's what we do. So tonight, besides just as I'm putting gloves on under off camera, besides just talking about how busy my weekend was and other things, I'm going to share one of the many things. I'm going to share a few of the many things that I painted while we've been away. And either I'm painting tonight, which I might do because I have 6 things right here to paint. Might, but I've also like to talk about some stuff that I use around the studio a lot, and I think that's cool. Like it's going to be informative. So we're going to do the "What have you done lately" segment, and I'm going to grab 2 things. Okay. So, if you follow me on my other YouTube channel, thank you. At Rickstroh, RICSTROH. I'll put all the links in the description when I'm done. So, one of the many things. So, let's see. When we first started this show, there's been a stress or a push to encourage getting old projects done, and if they're not old projects, like stuff that went into limbo, and that mentality has a big place in my heart because I learned procrastination from my father. My dad would have been a black belt in procrastination if he would just go accept the award. So I learned that from my father, and so after he passed, I was like, I don't want anybody to have to be burdened with all of my stuff. Come when I die, I don't want somebody to be like walk into one of my rooms and go like, Jesus, what the hell was he going to do with all this stuff? And I am a hoarder like my father, and a procrastinator like my father. And I've decided that for 7 years, I'm going to try and break that cycle. And since we started the podcast, there's always been the idea of like, how can you help reduce like the clutter? But it's not but why do you have the clutter, and how can you reduce it? So for me, some of my I don't want to call it clutter, but some of my stuff is I have a lot of paints, right? I have artist paints, model paints, stuff in between, and it's because I like different ranges for different things. Especially like certain model paints work better than others. Some are getting phased out. Some are being welcomed back with open arms. And then with the toys, like some model paints work better than others. Some model paints work better than artist paints, and vice versa. So I've been like grabbed all of the stuff. So there's my big exploration, and then to discover what I want to keep in focus. So there's a lot of that, and my storage wall over here, which kind of looks like that one, is reflecting that reduction or that desire for reduction slowly but surely. And that's great. But also, it's because I also have a lot of toys and resin pieces that have just like been bought for the sake of wanting that cool thing and never actually finishing it. There's a lot of times where when I start a project and then like, wow, I got it to this phase, and then it just sits on a shelf, never to be heard of again. And let's see. Over here, this is mostly completed stuff, except for this dude right here, this guy. And I need to make a cool terrain base for him. But so I tell that story to tell this one. Yeah, I think I started sharing this last month. So this is a bust by, I'm pretty certain, Kaiju Smuggler, at Kaiju Smuggler on Instagram. And it was originally yellow, and I jokingly painted it yellow when I thought I would submit it for the Rainbow Sparkles show for Clutter a few years ago. And it was not a joke, but a statement of something very highly detailed for a show that typically people make smaller things and an addition of to sell multiple items during the show. And I just thought it would be cool to have something as highly detailed as possible. And once I got the yellow on it and a green to accent the yellow, I had modeled everything that's green now was modeled orange or yellow and green, kind of looked like a camouflage pattern. And then I put it up over there. And it stayed and it stayed. And then I saw a miniature painting competition on one of my Facebook groups, and I was like, what the hell? So I contacted whoever the person running it and was like, "Our bust's okay?" And he said, "Yeah." So I ended up finishing this in like 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks. I have all the time-lapse footage from once I picked it up to completion. I'm compiling a video that should be done, or that should be released in a week. I do have on YouTube two progress videos that are like 4 or 5 minutes long, because I ended up just like whatever big painting session I had for this 2-3 days, I ended up just putting it into a little video so I could just put it out there, show what's going on, and get a little content up there, and then just show that this is happening. And when it was completed, I'm like, oh, I really like it. Like, I love the blends for all these spirally parts. My color choices are a little like, yeah, it's wrangled in. My color choices are wrangled in, and I really appreciate some of the simplicity. It's given, like, it's painted from below to highlight, to give it a lit effect from up top. There's a lot of volumetric shading going on. Got some cabochons going on in places, little glow effects. I love this thing. It's super detailed. And yeah, I think it turned out great. And it's about 7 inches tall. It's fantastic. So then, and again, let's see. So, yep, that's done. It has to get varnished, and then out the door it goes, because I was very pleased once I started like sharing it on the internet that a collector of mine reached out and sent me a down payment. So that's super. So then like 6 feet from us, 6 feet down from me is a stack of shelves from IKEA that they have multiple projects that have been in one. They're the unfinished projects. And so went over there, and I actually have 7 pieces on my table, and I'll be happy to share them all. But so this is the other piece that I completed. And the nice thing is, because like I said, 7 pieces, they're all by George Sokusodis. I like to call him George T because I think I'm butchering his last name. But I don't know if he knows. He's from Greece, and he is an amazing sculptor. And it's a little bleached out in here, but this is a Baba Yaga bust that he sculpted. The arm actually comes out. I need to magnetize it. But so I gave it a neat little glow effect on the back to highlight all those cool textures. And it was a quick and dirty way to paint it, to show that, and have it illustrated. And then we got the Baba Yaga, Yaga herself. Skin tone originally was green, and I went with a blue-green to accentuate it. And I went with a super limited palette. I want to say I went Zorn, but I didn't. Sometimes some people speculate that Zorn put blue in his palette. Some people says he didn't. But I went with a super minimal palette though, where I did have the blue-green. Got the yellow, not quite the yellow oxide that Zorn likes, but yep. And then I used a couple different reds I used magenta and Imperial red to be able to get this, and along with like 2 yellows to be able to make sure that I have this. So it's not as limited, but it looks like it could be a limited, more limited. And yeah, I really dig the way it came out. Everything here brings you right to the face. It's got so much movement in it. So what we discuss sometimes that is my inspiration for things I do. I pick inspiration off of animals and nature. And yeah, so I took like all these little spirally things in the horns. I painted them up to look like snakes. So instead of like trying to make it look like a non-metallic metal, or trying to make it look weathered, because I had such limited, because I imposed a limitation on myself, I was like, let's create a lot of busyness and motion in each one of these. And the simplest way to do that is to add black and white along with it. So it jumps all over the place. I am not flipping off the camera. Yeah, so I snuck in a little non-metallic metal over here, and I got some beat up metal over here on what holds it up, and it's all done with the same colors. And even with the little spiralies here, and even on the bones on her headgear, like everything got yellow that needed to be like a metal or just some type of fastener or animal part. I was just like, this is going to be my hard and fast rule, like Brannigan's love, to get this working right. And like these little things here and some buttons over here were going to be like a different red, etc. And then like as I was glazing in the eyes today to look super jeweled, yeah, I was like, let's just push it towards the magenta. So we have the magenta going this way, the blue going up and down, the yellow going in a circle. And it's like we just create a lot of motion. Like this part back here, originally I had done it in every color of a leaf, for like from spring to fall, and it was like super busy. I did not take a single before picture, but I took a couple. But I did take a turnaround video, so that'll be on the on this thing will have its own video on YouTube. It won't be that long, unfortunately, because this was my painting project during the Lord of the Rings weekend. And so what that meant is by 2:00 on Saturday, I stopped working because I was drinking. And yesterday, but anyway, what it meant was I was not putting a camera over top of this while I was painting it the last 2.5 days. So it's like you get this bleached out before picture with the green and all the excessive color choices, and then ta-da! So yeah, like I managed to catch some video footage of from today of me like beefing up the eyes and turning that into the way they are, adding some more contrast with the dark values, and that's it. Like I did not capture this on the back on video. Even though that was painted today too. But yeah, like it's super limited, but I will be discussing this more articulate on the video than I am doing right now. I really like how it came out. Really like it. And so yeah, so I've had these like see if I do this. There we go. And they're all kind of facing the right way. So yeah, I have these amazing pumpkins by George Sokusoditz as well. And they've also been pulled off the shelf of Limbo so that they can be painted in similar fashion. They all got a base color, or they all got a lot of paint added to them like 2 years ago. And then they got shelved. And what I started doing yesterday or today was I was adding a lot more value to the face, because they were all pretty much like this uniformed pumpkin color. Pumpkin as in what I chose for the body, not actual pumpkin, because it's blue. And then I just started beefing up a lot of the highlights and just adding those, because I know I'm going to go in with some clear glazes, and that's going to be pushed down. And the bad thing about doing this, starting up a new project or an old project, is this guy is the best example I can do. I got versus this dude, right? Like, so I can't do it. So anyway, this dude looks like I haven't done any beefing up of the highlights. I know I've done a little, but so I know that there's like some pale yellow over him to do the highlights, and I don't remember which color I was using. That's 2 years ago. There's different, like I have two new paint lines in my possession from there, and yeah, so maybe two. So I didn't even bother to guess like what color that was, and I just decided that as you ramp up your colors to get to contrast, there's like a color, it steps up. So whatever that step is that I got to with the highlight, I was like, fine, that's going to be the uniform highlight. And then everything else is going to have like, there might be I'm not going to totally erase it. It's just going to be a smaller step, but it'll have a little bit of vibrancy, should have some type of vibrancy in it with the color of glaze that I choose versus the new colors I chose for the highlights. And it'll probably have a painterly effect, that of like the people in the movie Box Trolls. If you haven't seen Box Trolls, you should. It's very pretty. There's some annoying parts in it. The eggs joke just gets old, but the puppets are painted beautifully, and to me they look like German expressionism, and it's very inspirational. So it might have that vibe when I'm done with it, and I love it. It'll be great. So hopefully, like, these now are taking residence on my paint table, and I am hopeful to have these done by next week. That's 5 pumpkins. They're great. Let's see. The biggest one is little bigger than the width of my hand. The smallest guy. So like when I painted these, they were painted at a time when I actually had I had 6 of the pumpkins plus that one stacked one, and I only finished one. And this one is probably my favorite right now. And you can see him. There we go. That's how we do it. Nice. All right. So, yeah, he's got a yellow oxide body for the pumpkin itself. He looks like a dude carved out of it. I went as realistic as I like to go. Not as it could go, but my comfort zone. And, you know, the nose has a really, it's just got all the purple and red tones in it to make it look more lifelike. And I ended up giving this to my wife. She really liked it. And yeah, so you can see I got nailed the eyes. They're not googly. That's very important. Come on, camera. Anyway, eyes aren't googly. That's very important. There we go. They're shiny. Look up his nose, that lip, everything. It looks great. Oh, we can go backwards. All right. Let's go back since I figured out how to make this work. Sort of. Yeah. So, dude on the left, the right, your right, has less value than this dude. And we're going to beef it up a lot. But it's like the way I'm painting these things, it's like taking a black and white movie and colorizing it. And it's one of my favorite ways of painting. So I don't do it all the time. When I do, I thoroughly enjoy it because it's just a lot of building. It takes a lot longer to do. And there's just a different type of joy in that type of painting. So speaking of painting, all right, it's almost been here now. We're talking about Lord of the Rings and what I've done, and I haven't gotten to the meat of the show tonight. And I didn't have the chat set up, so there it is. I did. Yay! All right, so I would like to talk about paint additives. And I know I've talked about some of this stuff before in the past, and for the life of me, I can't remember if I've done it with any type of structure or with any real structure. So I thought today I'd break out additives for paints and my top 5. And we'll just do a quick note. There's more than 5 additives out there. These are the 5 that are mine. No, there's more than 5 additives out there that you can add to paint. And I have a few more back there, but these are my top 5 that I use daily. I use daily. Some more than others, but so yeah, I'm actually trying to figure out my top 5, my order. All right, so this would be the one I don't actually use daily, and that's all right, but it is a slow dry medium. If I could actually figure that out in advance, that would be great. So this is a slow dry medium. This one's by Michaels. It is also referred to as retarding medium. I can understand why Michaels didn't want to put that on their label, but it is, and that's what it does. It slows down the drying time. Everything we talk about tonight will thin your paint down. When we add to it, we will add volume to it one way or the other, it will make your paint a little more transparent no matter what we're talking about tonight. This is no exception. So people will try to tell you that it makes it work like oil paints. And bless their hearts, they're wrong. Like it does, but like when you're talking to somebody, yes, but yes, it does. But it doesn't. So the joys of oil paints is that, when you're working it, you can push it around wherever. Your solvent that you use will reinvigorate it, and you can push it around even more. The more solvent you use, the more you can push it around, etc., and it'll go. The solvent for acrylics is water, and the base of acrylics is acrylic, which means it dries as a plastic. So every time it dries, so as it dries, it starts to form a skin over it too. So even if when it's built up, we're really thin, the first layer the first part that dries is the outer skin. And yeah, so like if you keep trying to push this around and around and around like oils, it's quite possible you're going to start actually having the dry skin of acrylic peel up, and you're going to be manipulating it in with your paints, and it's going to have like it's going to look like you have pulp in your paint. So yes, it works like oil, but only for a limited amount of time. It does extend the life of your paints, but not as much as you'd think of for if you've ever used oil paints. I like to use this stuff. I will thin it down with some water and matte medium, and I keep a little bottle of like matte medium water, the mixture I just said, and probably 2 parts this to 1 part matte medium and water, so I could have it a little more liquidy. But I add it to my white when I'm doing fine details, like on my witch's eyes. You got to have those little tiny eyes. I'm using a little tiny brush. Like I could write my name on a grain of sand with this brush, right? But the problem is there's so little water here that it's very possible, and I was having that do yesterday, where you grab it off your palette and it's on your brush and it's drying before I can make the dot. And that's really annoying. So you mix a little of this or some other product that does have a retarding agent to it to make sure that you can at least get with your microscopic brush, your microscopic dot, and put your paint in your little tiny dot and be good. And the only reason I didn't use a stick is because I didn't want the paint to be built up that much right around that eye, because the details are sculpted in there, and I didn't want to have a weird level or layer there. So this works well. The other thing you can do with this that I really like is that you can antique things with it. So like if I wanted to varnish this with a spray or brush on varnish, and then after that's cured, a few hours, you can mix in some paint with the slow dry blending gel medium, and you could brush it all over, and then you can wipe it down as fast as you can, and it'll go in all the recesses. You wipe it down and you can get it all in the recesses, and it will look antiqued or weathered, old, whatever you want to call it. It can look like that. You put the varnish on, because with this stuff at least this one, I know there's ammonia in it. My nose tells me that. And yeah, so there's a little bit of a solvent in here that will mess up paint if you're abusive to it. And if you're antiquing something, you're going to be abusive to it. So varnish it first, but you can antique it and give it a really nice weathered look. And by just wiping the paint off with your thumb, cotton bud, sponge, whatever, just make sure your thing is varnished or protected. Like key for that concept, right? So great stuff. I don't use it every day, but when I do use it, I'm so glad that this freaking pint was only like $14, or with coupon even cheaper. Like some hobby manufacturers make something similar for like 5 times the cost. This is the deal. Okay, the next now we're into things that I use every day, and or mostly every day. So this is a wetting aid. It is by Golden, and actually it's like using water. It's like this is like water and flow improver had a baby made out of electricity. So this is a very concentrated additive. You add like what, 1/4 ounce. So you add it's a 1 to 32 part ratio. So you put like a drop or two, and you put a drop or two in your painting water, and it's going to make your paint move around. What this does is it helps spread your paint out, and it makes it feel, are you ready? Like a watercolor, because it makes it spread out. And that's my best analogy, is like, so when you want to spread out that pigment as far as possible, this will do it. I like using this. I keep a little tiny jar of it. It's mixed more powerful than their instructions, but it's pretty potent. I mix a little bit of that when I want stuff to go into recesses. This is the additive I go for, because it makes it go. And I want to say like a watercolor or like an oil wash, because yeah, it has a potential of doing a capillary effect where it'll spread out wherever it'll find the grooves, and it may not fill it all in, but it'll find them, and that's pretty cool. And one of the other things is this will also allow you to have a little bit of a reactivation depending on your paints. Like if you add this to it, I don't know what it does. I'm not a chemist. I'm just a color scientist. I don't know what it does, but this will help with some weird reactivation. I've never actually nailed it 100%, but I know if I use this and flow improver with my paints, there's a good possibility if I screw up, I can actually grab a wetted brush and wipe away my error. It gives me a little more time. Yeah, and the slow dry blending gel medium allows for that too. But again, it's thicker. This stuff it makes your water way more watery. That makes sense. Speaking of watery, I kind of wanted to have this as the number one, but it's not. Like water, but water is life, man. If you don't have water for your acrylic paints, you're in trouble. I want to relate a story about when I asked a dude if he ever used water on his paints, and some other pro painter just started laughing at him because he was like, "I told him that yesterday." I'm watching a dude like go into the tube itself and be like painting his toy like that, and well, it's thick or it doesn't cover well. Like, well, fuck you. Anyway, water. It's your solvent, or it's your base. Like acrylics or water-based paints, they're like, it works well with everything. Is it the best thing? It is the best. Does it do everything? No. Like if you thin your paints too far with this, you will see the pigment color. You'll see it pool like watercolors. And you'll see it pool with water like a watercolor with this too, but this makes it actually, this is very purposeful. This, well, you can do it with purpose with this, but you know, it's water. I can't say enough good things about it. Like water is life, but like, yeah. Number 3 best additive. It's like use it with everything. All right, flow improver, number 2 or number 4, whichever way we're going. My number 2 best go-to, flow improver. This is, it's amazing. So it is a it's a wetting agent, just like the Molulant, but it works a little differently. For one, there is a bit of a slow drying effect with this as well. When you mix it with other things, it has the potential of actually being self-leveling. So it helps eliminate brush strokes if your brushes are smooth enough, and that's awesome. This also needs diluting, and depending on the manufacturer, more diluting. I got this bottle at the beginning of the year, and I'm already halfway through. But I use this with my airbrush too. I keep a squeeze bottle similar to this by my airbrush station that is already mixed of half water, half flow improver. Not this flow improver though, because it's a little more concentrated than Vallejo's brand. But anyway, it's a water flow improver mix that I do use downstairs to just always add to my paints when I'm using the airbrush. And a lot of my paints don't need the thinning to go through the airbrush, but I like having this there because one, I do like to work with a little more transparent color than your average modeler or toy painter, because again, the way I like to paint in layers. But this is my number 1 additive for not only here at this paint station, but at my airbrush station too. As like most airbrush paints need most paints when you go through an airbrush do need a little thinning, and this works out great because it is like I said, it's a wetting agent, and it does have a slower dry time, or creates a slower dry time. And for your airbrush, you want that, because as your needle is, because like if this were your needle of your airbrush, air's coming out, bouncing off that to spray. This is where when the air comes out here, that's where it's going to want to dry first. So when your paint's coming out through there and it's accumulating here, you're drying it as you're blowing it out. So to have an additive that helps reduce the drying on your tip, wonderful. If you're painting any paint, if you're using any paint that has white mixed in with it, you'll notice that might want to build up more on your needle, especially white. So this helps reduce it. And by helping reduce the buildup on your needle, it helps reduce speckling. Less speckling means more smooth. And I have a love-hate relationship with speckling, like doing skin tones and various like realistic things. Speckling is great if you want something super smooth. It's not, but learning the control of this and your airbrush and your paints and blah, blah, blah puts more experience in your toolbox. All right. So then the number 1 thing, additive, that I love for painting is good old matte medium. I think I talk about matte medium on almost every painting video when I actually talk about it, instead of just letting the audio carry my video through. Matte medium. People call it a colorless paint, and that's what it is. It's acrylic paint without color in it. So it means it's the base and the binder, because in order to actually call it a paint, it needs 3 things: a base, a binder, and pigment. So this is the base and the binder. The binder is acrylic, the base is water. And I love it. Like, it's pretty much a go-to for many things. A few weeks ago or months ago, we talked about we mentioned rabbit skin glue on this channel, which is it's a surface preparation for canvases and stuff. It smells like hell to when you cook it up, but I was told early on in my painting career that people will use matte medium instead of rabbit skin glue for the same effect. So a primer or a surface prep that I don't have to cook. And I do use it as a surface prep for many things. It works great. Like, and surprisingly, it's like hell. It's sometimes it sticks to stuff better than paint does, which is weird. But it's also like, what I really love about it is that, like, it's significantly cheaper than an actual paint. And so if you ever have to worry about, like, will my paint stick on a surface, use a brush full of matte medium to tell you. Because if matte medium sticks, your paint should stick. And so that's great. I think I missed the big point. All right, so the big point. Matte medium, because it is a colorless paint, it has the base in it already. So it helps suspend so you add your paint to it, it helps suspend the pigment. It keeps it from running all over the place. Water, flow improver, and the wetting aid, they all help make the paint go as far as you can with as wet as it goes. Matte medium does the opposite. Because it's paint, it's still the acrylic base. Where you put it, it's going to stay unless you oversaturate it with water. So that means your pigment's going to be there too. That means it's not going to go watermark or coffee stain. If it coffee stains, it's because your paint ratio to the transparent base was off. Like, if it coffee stains with this, it means you added too much medium and not enough paint. But I use this a lot. I use it with the combination of water so that I can have my own weird watered down mixture, so I can add with paint. Because I glaze it on and it comes out great. I love this stuff. I keep a thin down bottle with my paints downstairs with the airbrush, because if I decide I'm going to use inks or something that's transparent anyway, something that's also transparent that might be a little more fragile, anything that I think has the possibility of being fragile to the touch when I'm painting it, like with inks or pigments, I'll add matte medium to the airbrush too, just to make sure it has a little extra body so that it gives it a little more beef. I also use this with the airbrush to where if I want to varnish something, use a brush on varnish, I'll spray this over top of my painting first to affix anything that might be reactivated. I could have pigment powder that could be reactivated, or if I used a gouache wash, which is also pigmented, like anything like that, I will use this to lock it in before I brush anything over. Also with pastel drawings, let's say you get to a point on your pastel drawing and you want to lock in this layer, don't brush it on, spray it on with an airbrush, and it'll darken things. You'll lose some value because it's got wet and then it's dried wet or dried with a wet look, but it's going to lock what you've got in place so that you can work over top of it and build it up again. This little doodad that I cranked out in the last couple weeks ago, I ended up doing that a few times. I would use pastels on it, then I would go downstairs and spray it, and I would spray it. And I don't think I locked down the last layer because I was like, well, it's the last layer and I need a picture of it. But yeah, let's see. I need a clean towel. All right, so clean towel, no smudge, no smudge, very little smudge. So yeah, like I locked this down, and the pink and the blue are not, but yeah, I locked this down a few times. And like when you're working with pastels, fixative, right? We've all used spray fixative. It works the same way, but it might darken up some of them. So, but I love it. It's very universal. It's very utilitarian. Yeah, beefing up my inks. And even like, I don't want to say poor man's, but poor man's varnish. Like if I have, and just like I said, like fixing down stuff, it's not an end all varnish, but if you need to lock something down, it's pretty handy. And then like the nice thing is because there's so many uses for it, you have the one tool, the multi-tool of your paint additives right here. If I were to eliminate, so have all 5 of my additives, right? If I were to eliminate any of them, I would get rid of this first, the slow dry gel. Then my second one would be the Mollulent, of course, or the Wetting Aid. And of course, like 4 and 5 on your list, Rick. You're going to create a top 3 of these 3. But yeah, like with Flow Improver, water, and matte medium, like you do almost anything. You don't need the other 2, but man, are they handy when you got them. So that's the dealio. I feel like water might be just a cheap hack for this list, and I should have added something else, but it's like the other things that I have back there, I'm like, I don't freaking use them. I don't use them enough to bring them up. But water's important, right? So this concludes my TED Talk. Yeah. So 5 additives that are incredibly useful while painting. And I do actually have, like, I have a video on my other channel for a product called Noosh, NWSH, by Monument Hobbies. And yeah, that one of their products, it feels like a retarding agent. And yeah, and it was a complete, like, I bought the product, tried it out, and got a video out within like 5-6 hours. That's cool. And the big takeaway from that video was needing to varnish the things beforehand, because I was wiping off the base gray that I had my Skeleton Crew base did. If I was being overly aggressive on the actual surface, I'd wipe that away and you can see the pink underneath them. But if I was being nice, that's cool. All right, so that concludes that part of the show. And yeah, we are at 8:20 on a Monday. For those of you who are watching it from the future, hello. Sorry I couldn't compete against wrestling tonight, guys. So yeah, so that concludes tonight's broadcast as well. We will try and get back together Saturday. Well, second show of the month will be this Saturday, so we'll see y'all then. Everybody have a super safe week. Be safe. Try not to fear the sky is falling. Go make something and be happy with it, or proud of it. Have a good day.